Welcome back to our channel. Today we are going to have a look at Endgame number 78 from the book 100 Endgames You Must Know by Jesus de la Villa. In this endgame, we are going to have a look at a king and two isolated pawns versus the king. Here, the isolated pawn is on the F file on H file, and the white king is far away from the pawn, which means white has to use a defense called the mutual defense. So in this endgame, we're going to have a look at two examples. The first example talks about the mutual defense. I will explain it to you and then you'll be able to understand what it means. So it's white to move h5, and here if black takes the pawn f pawn, then h6 wins. We have discussed this in detail in endgame number 1. If you're not sure, please refer to endgame number 1, which discusses about the square of the pawn. The black is unable to come to the square of the pawn on time, and as a result black loses in this instance. So going back to this position, the black cannot take the pawn, so what they have to do is to go back to play king f6, and after king b2, king g7, f5 is played. If black here tries to play king h6, white simply has to move the f pawn, and after say king h7, white improves the king position again, and after g8, h6 is played, and say after king f7, now h7 is played. And as you can see, this defense is called the mutual defense. White's king is far away from the action. However, these two pawns, as they are separated by just one square, they're able to maneuver and go forward. If black king tries to capture one pawn, the other pawn will be able to threaten to queen, and this is called the mutual defense. In this second example, we have a white king, two isolated pawns for white, and black's king. The only difference here is the pawns are two squares apart, so the mutual defense will not work. However, there is another way to win this position. This is called delaying the capture. There is also another idea which we will talk about in endgame 88, which is called the floating square. So it's similar to the square of the pawn, but here we do have two pawns. It's called the floating square. Here the rule says if this square is able to reach the 8th rank, that means the pawns can promote by themselves. They don't need the help of the king. However, in this instance, unfortunately, the square does not reach the 8th rank, which means the white king has to come. To win this kind of endgame, what you need to do is to delay the capture of one of the pawns till white's king comes and secures the key squares, which we have discussed in endgame 3. So we'll have a look at it quickly. King d5, and after a5, now we are preventing the capture of the pawns. For example, if king takes the pawn, a6, and you know the rule of the square of the pawn, which we discussed in endgame number 1. So going back to this position, after a5, we have king c6. Going back, king g2, king b5, threatening the pawn, and after king f3, now black captures the pawn. However, white's king is well in time to come to the key squares. As we know, if it's the d4 pawn, the key squares are c6, d6, and e6. And after king c7, white's king is able to occupy the key square, which we have discussed in endgame number 3. So after king d8, now white wins the opposition, and hereafter it's a simple winning endgame for white. I hope you enjoyed this video. For more videos like this, please like and subscribe, and it's bye for now.